So my video today is going to be about how I got this leather piece cut to fit around this 3D shape, sort of the circumference of this hood that I created that I talked about in the last video. Now it doesn't curve just in one direction. This is a three-dimensional shape. So in order to get a leather strap to sit neatly around that edge and curve and contour along with the face, took a couple tricks. So I'm going to go back in time and show you where I started with this. So the challenge here is trying to figure out how to get my leather piece to follow this line all the way around and get that pattern onto a piece of leather and cut the right shape. So what I'm going to try and do, and we'll see if this works, is to put foil all over this, mush it down, get it into the right shape, and then flatten that down onto a piece of paper and reproduce that line. Okay, so what I've done here, excuse this tape, it's just the only tape I had, is some wrapping tape. But I put foil all around, and what I did is sort of creep the foil back to the edge of where I want the hood to come to, and then taped it all down to keep it kind of firm. And what I'm going to do is cut it to shape so that I have the line up the middle where I want the seam to be, and then flatten this down onto a piece of paper, trace this inner line. I'm not worried about this outer line because that I'll just basically run, you know, an even inch or 3/4 of an inch from the inner line on the pattern that I draw. And then I'll flatten that onto a piece of paper, draw that inner line out onto a piece of paper, and transfer that line onto a piece of leather and do my cut. So I had this big sketch paper, sketch pad, and even that wasn't big enough to trace this pattern on, so I just attached 2 pieces of paper. And what I've done is press this pattern out as flat as I can onto the paper, and I'm going to very carefully trace just this inner line all the way around. And then I'm going to take that off. I'm going to draw a second sort of outer line, which I will use, I don't know, some kind of device to make sure sort of it's an even width all the way around. And then I will cut that piece of paper out and test it on my bust. So now I have my line traced onto here, and I notice, not unexpectedly, that it's very asymmetrical. Pardon me, this curve here is much more sweeping than this curve here, which just kind of comes right down. Now there's a couple ways I can approach this. One, I'm expecting there to be asymmetry because of the fact that the hood itself is asymmetrical. I sculpted it with clay underneath to have a very specific shape, and then put fabric over top of that. My sculpting wasn't symmetrical. The sculpting of the mask that I put it over is not symmetrical. So it's okay if this isn't, to a degree. So what I'm going to do is cut it out, and if I think that if it's causing me problems, I can make adjustments by or get it back to being symmetrical by folding this in half and picking the side that I think works best, and then doubling that up. So I just fold the pattern and then trace the pattern onto another sheet, doubled up. So we're going to see how this goes from the first cut and then take it from there. Okay, so I have these calipers here. I believe they're called calipers. Let me know if I'm an idiot in the comments below. And what I'm going to do is use these to, like, you know, trace along here to make sure that the piece I cut is going to be an even thickness. And I've checked that it's an even inch, and I'm not doing that just to be anal. The reason I'm doing that is I don't plan on adding any buckles or anything like that to this leather strap that I'm going to put on here. I think it's going to tie together with grommets and lace. But just in case I later on change my mind, it's good for this strap to have a predictable or even thickness. If you go to the leather store and look for buckles to put on a leather strap, they're either going to be 3/4 inch or an inch. They're going to be one sort of a series of predetermined sizes. So by making sure that I'm set to an inch here, I've allowed for that possibility in the future. Okay, so there I go. I have a nice even line. Thanks. I just sort of scratched it in there and then reinforced it with a pen line to make sure it's pretty even. And now it's time for cutting and testing. Okay, so I've fit it on there, and it works. I can't operate the camera and sort of push it on there tight the way I had it, and then I already knocked it off. But it fits comfortably around the seam, lining up, you know, pretty precisely. And, you know, anytime you have to sort of push something like that's flexible, like fabric, sort of slightly out of shape, there is some bend, but if there's too much, then you start getting folds. That's what I'm trying to avoid here, having sort of a smooth piece of leather go all the way around. And I think I'm going to get there. So it's time to take this piece and trace it onto my hide of leather. I have a very thin leather for this that I've bought some time ago and haven't had a use for yet, so that should be good also in helping it remain flexible. Okay, I got a big hide of leather here. It's quite thin and not focused, I'm sure, but it is, trust me. And I'm just going to basically lay my pattern on here in a spot where I think it's going to create the least waste. Okay, I just have lots of tiny little pieces of tape to keep this flush, and I'm just going to go around it with an X-Acto knife to kind of score it. Then I will come around again with my leather shears and cut the piece out. I don't think leather shears are the best way to get a super straight line, but again, this is for a monster costume, so that's the way it's going to be done. Deal with it. So here you go, you have a strap, and you notice, if it sits flat, it's wide apart, right? But if you gather these two parts together, you can see the contour that we built, the 3D contour that we built, and I have it flipped backwards. There you go. There you see the 3D shape that we've built in, so that the fabric is running one way, or the leather, and then curving another way to fit around the head, and you get the actual contours of the head using that process with the foil. So hopefully that helps you all understand where I'm going next with this project. I'm going to get the strap in place and move along because I have 2 weeks to finish this costume. That's it. Talk to y'all soon, and happy hunting.